All right, here we go, kids.
Yeah, I just noticed on my phone, I have this app, this fucking instant translation app. You just talk
Mm-hmm.
into the fucking phone and it instantly translates it into like about 20 different languages.
It's helping
Shit.
first responders across America. I'll tell you that much.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
Ah, I see. Yes, Tully. I see you're here clear and present. The rest of that is danger, I think is the word that you're missing there, Tully. Mm. Well, don't do that. Let's do it that way. And since Carolina has beaten a ranked team, I can now jump on the Tar Heel bandwagon because football season did not work out.
You're still intrigued with your little sports obsession. When are you going to grow out of that shit? How are the Browns doing?
I just hope this lockout can be resolved quickly.
Oh, God, we're all.
Yeah. Thoughts and prayers to the Major League Baseball Players Union and the owners. I certainly hope they don't all die in a fiery crash.
All right. I think we can pull this puppy out of the ditch here.
It's only about 72 days till catchers and pitchers report, Brad. So we have to get this figured out.
Oh, this will get resolved fast.
They better.
Worried about it. Not worried about it. All right.
They better
ready?
figure this shit out. I'm ready.
Yep. Brad and Britt cast. Oh, let me fix the lighting here.
Watch yes.
Is that? Huh?
You are enlightened. That's good.
Thank you.
That's a good look right there.
Thank you so much. All right, we're glad to have you along here. We'll bat around a few things. You see, I said the word bat because baseball. Oh,
yeah, I see what you did there.
Don't even. Yeah. Can I just start? And this is worth about 30 seconds. It's not worth talking about, but the most predictably stupid, irrelevant, and I don't care, but it's funny and it's obvious headline I may have ever seen in my life. Ready? Here it is. From the New York Post, of course. Ready? Seth Rogen smoked, quote, a ton of weed before Adele's CBS concert special.
Did you actually watch any of that? Did you see any of it?
Of course I didn't watch it. And he apparently just said this, on Fallon's show, but they turned it into a headline like it's a story. Okay.
Yeah, no, Seth Rogen's
that's like saying I got up this morning and took a piss. So,
I breathed when I rolled out of it. Jesus Christ. Like here's the headline. Seth Rogen went 3 days without smoking weed. Now we've got hold on.
Yes.
Now we're talking.
That would be a headline. All right.
I happen to be a huge fan. They did it from that observatory from Rebel Without a Cause, wherever the fuck that observatory is in Los Angeles. It was wonderful. And they had, Oprah said it was really something else. So, yeah, that's as much time as we need to devote to any of that. That's absolutely 100% true.
Well, I'm glad that you admitted that you watched it, Grandpa.
Don't use that word. That's a bad word. That'll get you in trouble. You get hauled in the office for saying the word grandpa to somebody.
Sure will.
Speaking of things that are too stupid to talk about, Tucker Carlson airing audio of Brian Stelter revealing he fired unvaccinated nanny, blithely dismissed his little non-white servant. Brad, is this too stupid for us to talk about?
Well, it's funny because, as you know, one of my jobs here is to protect you from ever having to watch Fox in prime time.
I want you to know I appreciate it. I absolutely don't take that for granted. I certainly appreciate that.
Right. So I happened to go by the segment before the segment that you're talking about here, and Tucker teased it, going into the commercial, saying, what we just found out about Brian Stelter, this guy is so weird. We'll be back after these messages, kind of. All right.
Right.
So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. But not enough to keep watching, because I know I can just wait and look at it. They'll put it up as on their website as to how weird Brian Stelter, the media reporter for CNN, and by the way, an unobtainable guest for us when he was a writer for the New York Times. We tried to get him many years
times
ago.
Yeah.
And he did not respond to us, which, you know what? On second thought, he probably had good taste.
It's good judgment. It's good judgment on Brian Stelter's part.
But anyway, so I found the story early this morning, and the headline was, and remember, this is the setup that Tucker had made before the commercial break, that he was going to come back and break this story about what a fucking weird piece of shit, disgusting human being, this Brian, who of course has made a lot of his living the last few years monitoring Fox, writing books about the big lie that is Fox News. So they take any opportunity they can to go after him. So the headline is, this is on the Fox site, CNN's Brian Stelter says he fired nanny for refusing to get COVID vaccine, audio tape. So he and his wife canned the nanny because the nanny refused to get a vaccine, which of course is their right to do. If the nanny doesn't want to get the vaccine, I guess it's her right not to get the vaccine. You either keep your job and get the vaccine. You don't want to get the vaccine, you're fired. And they spun that. Into, oh my God, how could you fire a nanny, a minor? And so Tucker takes that, and in his smarmy, attempted, hilarious takedown of a racist move by a rich white Jewish guy and his wife to destroy probably a minority woman who had no choice. It's just pathetic.
So, but a nanny by definition,
it was nothing.
A nanny by definition is going to be hanging out with your children, right? I mean, that's so if you insist on someone being vaccinated who's going to be around your children, oh my God, that's the end of the world, right? That's the worst thing ever.
No, this is where we have to stop taking the bait. We do not have to discuss why Brian Stelter and his wife were allowed to fire the nanny. You can fire the nanny because she burned the casserole. You can fire the nanny for cause or non-cause or any fucking reason that's the way it works. And so this is what they do. This is them. This is Fox. This is Tucker Carlson in one nugget of a story.
He's a horrible asshole. He's like the biggest asshole of the year, I think. But this guy probably finishes in the top three. Mitch McConnell, the Senate minority leader, is now facing some problems now. Here's another senator that you haven't heard of. Roger Marshall of Kansas has bonded together with Ted Cruz of Texas, and they are going to shut down the government, Brad. They will not go ahead with a spending plan to keep the government open unless there's something in there that strips the authority of the federal government to put forth vaccine mandates and mask mandates. So Mitch McConnell is trying to go around putting out little fires within his coalition to say, stop it. No, we're not going to shut down the government over this shit. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz continues to be the biggest dick in the history of dicks. Your thoughts on this, Brad?
Well, see, I don't know whether anyone who's a Republican from the leadership McConnell down through these senators ever is doing anything even remotely honest or in good faith. It's much safer to assume that they're not, okay? Mm-hmm. And that it's all, three-dimensional wrestling scripts that are trying to position someone as the hero and other people as the bad guy in any particular situation. So Mitch McConnell, the way I read it, is trying to position himself as the reasonable guy, right? He realizes it's bad for the government to shut down. It's inconvenient. It's the Christmas season, or as when the tables are turned. How could the Democrats do this during the Christmas season? It's even worse. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It does not matter. This would be the Democrats' war on Christmas, or them voting to shut down the government, which Democrats don't do that, in case you didn't notice. Go back to the last 150 years. It's Democrats that are never voting to shut down. Okay. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't assume that any of these people are telling the truth or acting in good faith or believe in what they're saying. And if the Republicans, and let's pretend that they are believing what they're saying, they are willing to die on this hill. They are willing to die on this hill of opposing any kinds of measures that will get more people vaccinated, more people healthy, more people immune from the ravages of the coronavirus. No, it doesn't prevent you automatically from getting it. We never said it did. The drug companies never said it did. Donald Trump never said it did. Joe Biden never said it did. But they have to argue that, because now you can find people that have gotten breakthrough versions. And guess what? They don't die. They don't end up in the hospital. They don't. But again, the facts mean nothing here. And all these people are doing, guys like Ted Cruz and this Roger Marshall character from Kansas. By the way, I don't know how the Republicans managed to find every asshole doctor in the world to run for. You got Roger Marshall, you got Rand Paul.
It's Monster. It's monster.com. You can filter that stuff for just asshole doctors.
Dr. Oz wants to join the party. I don't know if there's any beyond that. There might be a couple more, but those are the ones that come to mind immediately. And these are the people that took the Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. Well, guess what? They're at least publicly saying that mandating people to get the vaccine within the bounds of the ability of the federal government and the president to order this. Of course, he can't do it. It's a state thing, but he can do it with federal money that goes through Medicare to certain companies. They know how they do that. The bet is that people believe that the measures that Joe Biden is taking, in other words, the failed attempt to fight the coronavirus, because that's how it's portrayed on Fox.
Sure, which is
Biden struggling to get, right, doing right, get it. That's a better political bet than going with the increasing number of people who every day are getting immunized, and the increasing number of people who every day are throwing their hands up in the air saying, I'm fucking sick of these people. The increasing number of us who say, why don't you fucking make it so that you can't get on a goddamn airplane in this country without being vaccinated?
The millions upon millions of children who are now being vaccinated and will now be protected and will get to live and perhaps be able to breathe their entire lives. Yeah.
So the Republican bet, the Republican bet is being put out there right now. And this really does tie back to as you got more details yesterday and into today about just how sick Donald Trump really was at that first debate in Cleveland, how he knew that he had COVID, how he had failed a COVID test, and then he got a negative result sooner after that.
Right after
but he was sick as a dog. And if you remember, try to remember in your mind what this looked like. If you remember that first debate in Cleveland, they'd show that long shot of the auditorium there.
Right.
And the order was that everyone in the audience had to wear a mask. And then suddenly this group of about 15 or 20 people, the Trump family, the wife, the children, they all walked in and none of them were wearing a mask.
And they were offered masks and turned them down.
Well, of course, they were questioning probably the source of those masks. It was the Cleveland Clinic, and you can't trust those people. right?
Sure. Yeah. Who can trust those guys?
How can we trust them? So they were all in on it.
Yeah.
They knew that Donald Trump was sick as a dog. And a couple days later, sure enough, he really was. And guess what? He didn't develop it after that debate. And then 2 days later, he turns it. No, he was.
He came much closer to having an extended hospital stay than a lot of people know. They threw the kitchen sink at him in order to treat him, to make sure that he didn't die.
Right. And of course, Mark Meadows, who's a nonstop liar, this would be the one time where he wouldn't be lying, because he wouldn't make this story up.
No,
there's no benefit. It doesn't make him look good. It doesn't make Trump look. There's no benefit about that. There's only win in it for him to tell the truth about this moment, and it clearly is true.
Let me read a little bit more. Let me read a little more from Business Insider about this situation of shutting down the government. The directives for large employers to either require workers to get a shot or to set up COVID-19 testing regimes at workplace still isn't in effect because they're held up in court. But that hasn't prevented a GOP shutdown brigade made up of Senators Roger Marshall of Kansas and Ted Cruz of Texas to demand a short-term funding deal intended to keep the government open. Also include a provision to strip funding from federal agencies charged with carrying out that order. The Kentucky Republican Mitch McConnell telling Fox News the funding bill isn't the right venue to go after mandates. There's a decent chance the courts will strike them down. I don't think shutting down the government over this issue is going to get an outcome. It's only going to create chaos and uncertainty. So that's what's going on with Mitch McConnell trying to get these assholes not to shut down the government.
But as bad an actor as I think Mitch McConnell is, he's totally right here.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's an issue.
Can you name a government shutdown? And I'm not putting this on you because you know what the answer is. Yeah. Can you name a government shutdown that in the end benefited the Republicans who initiated it?
No, but they still do it every time. They still do it every single time. Every time. And Obama was, you can criticize Barack Obama on a number of fronts. He was a genius at this shit. He basically would just let the children stomp their feet, turn blue, and pass out, and then let them come to. Because he every single time this would happen, they would eventually back themselves into a corner, and they would eventually have to cry uncle. Because they would look bad, they would accomplish nothing, and the American people knew it. Donald Trump would get himself... the Donald Trump shutdowns were fantastic because Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer would play him like a fucking fiddle. And then eventually his people would have to come to them and go, you have to give him a win. Please, you have to give him a win. It's up to you. You have to do this. They would have to be like, all right, here's a box of M&Ms. That's basically what would happen. And he'd sign something, it would open back up, and it would accomplish nothing of the stupidity that he wanted to accomplish. Am I right or am I wrong?
Oh, you're right. Of course, you're right on this.
Every single time.
We wouldn't allow ourselves, either of us, on our podcast if the other person said something that the other person didn't agree with. You know how that works.
That's how that works. The president who we have now, Joe Biden, outlining some new steps to combat COVID through winter months. They already have a plan in place with Omicron as much as they possibly can. We're still getting data on what Omicron is. You were speaking previously of people who are being assholes and being deniers and being anti-science. Well, we can add LeBron James apparently to that particular list, as he put up a tweet saying that something is real fishy after he tests positive for COVID. And now he is getting kudos from, I don't know, people who are assholes like the Barstool Sports crowd and the guys and the guys from Outkick the Coverage.
What is something real fishy? What does that mean?
Well, it means that, hey, well, that he's putting it out in the water, and those who are anti-science and anti-vaccine have found aid and comfort in his questioning. This is being seen as him saying, hey, I got this thing and it didn't work. So he is now all out when it comes. He hasn't explained himself any further.
I got to make sure that you're on the same page here with me. That this is a blame the vaccine.
It is. That's what it's being seen as.
And I still got it. So why did I get the vaccine? Because I was questioning it 4 months ago and I caved and I still got it. So I was right all along. Is that what this is?
And the Clay Travis and the Barstool Sports contingent are backing him to the hilt on this, Brad, 120%. Something is real fishy going on was the tweet that he gave out last night, and he had little fish emoticons on there. So now he is being seen as a doubter and a hater and an anti-vaxxer, giving aid and comfort to the people who are
an idiot on this because, I mean, clearly the intelligent answer is yes, you got COVID and you're not nearly as sick as you would have been, and you're not in a hospital, and shut up. You're an idiot. I don't know what else to say. Again, it's too stupid to talk about. It's too stupid to talk about. And don't worry. Have we heard anything? Because we haven't gotten an update. It was about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. We suddenly had all these stories about people who thought they could figure out how to reverse the vaccine. Remember that? They thought they had this concoction to inject in that would reverse the effects of them. We never heard from those people again. Where did they go? What happened?
It's being called a detox bath, I believe, is what Gizmodo is telling me.
Yeah.
In a video that circulated on TikTok, which, by the way, possibly could be the death of the world. This could take down society. In a previously circulated video on TikTok, versions of which are on Facebook with a no fact check label, internal medicine specialist and prominent anti-vax misinformation hawker, Dr. Carrie Madej. Are you familiar with Dr. Carrie Madej at all? That name doesn't, of course, I don't listen to bullshit artists, so maybe I wouldn't know her. She can be seen stating the formula into a microphone. She claims that her detox bath extracts radiation poisoning, pesticides, heavy metals, and some parasites with ingredients which have long mistakenly circulated as magic bullet detoxifiers. She recommends,
I have a question for the doctor. Will this remove the transmitter that is pumping out my thoughts to Bill Gates?
How dare you not take this seriously? How dare you take this bullshit pseudo medicine science not seriously? She recommends baking soda and Epsom salt for radiation, bentonite clay for fungus and yeast, and a whole cup of borax.
That's wrong. It's baking powder, not baking soda.
I don't know.
Every recipe you have to get confused there.
They interact sometimes in some recipes, but they are very different ingredients. She recommends a whole cup of borax for nanotechnology, and then she says, scrub down, 20 minutes as hot as you can tolerate it, right? And that's what she's saying will detoxify you and get this vaccine out of your body and get the toxins out of your body.
Right. Okay. That's enough of that.
I've looked at some of the ingredients in the Pfizer. This is a real thing. Do you know, I saw there are a couple of ingredients, one of which is sugar, very much like the sugar that's probably in your pantry right now. That's actually in the Pfizer, and salt, table salt, Brad. Those two ingredients, those two dangerous ingredients, Brad. Do you know how many people each year come down with diabetes because of sugar? Do you know how many people have strokes because of table salt? And people won't talk about this.
No, I love the way you're thinking. You ready? So the vaccine could induce type 2 diabetes.
Or a stroke. You could have a stroke. That is exactly right. Nobody is talking. No, literally, if you look up the ingredients, it literally has a couple of ingredients, sugar and salt. Mm-hmm. And as has been pointed out here and anywhere else, look at the ingredients for Twinkies or a hot dog in your refrigerator. See if you can name any of these or find any of them in nature.
Yeah.
But apparently we're obsessed by the ingredients of this fucking vaccine and have to know everything. Meanwhile, have you heard the McRib is back?
Yeah.
Just in time for Christmas. Here you go.
Michigan school shooting suspect's mom thanked Trump for right to bear arms.
Oh boy.
In a letter to him back in 2016.
Oh boy.
2016. This is the mother of the kid who did the shooting. You see, we don't have to call him the suspect.
No.
He did the shooting. All right.
Hey, if this was in Wisconsin, would we be allowed to call the people who got shot victims? I'm just curious if that, and we wouldn't be able to introduce that letter into evidence at all, because if that fucking stupid ass judge was part of this. By the way, the guy that ran down the people in the parade in Waukesha, I know he made his first appearance. Is he going to get that awesome judge? Maybe he'll get that awesome judge and he'll be able to get off too.
So the kid's mother, Ethan Crumley's mother, she's 43 years old, wrote to, and Trump was president-elect at this point when she wrote it
Mhm.
in 2016, so after the election, thanking him for, quote, allowing my right to bear arms, because as you know, if you go back and look, you can't argue with this, Hillary Clinton was about to initiate
Right.
a national gun confiscation program. That was part of her platform. A lot of people, ignored it, but this woman saw right through it. We elected Trump by acclamation, right? He got the most votes of any person ever, right? And we loved him. The Oakland County, Michigan prosecutor, Karen McDonald, said her office is considering whether to criminally charge this kid's parents. You don't have to think too hard about that. I would get right to it. Because what? The old man bought the gun, and mommy was thanking Donald Trump for allowing her to still have the Second Amendment, which was this close. It was, if it wasn't for Joe Manchin, there'd be no Second Amendment left in this country. Thank God we had Joe Manchin then. You may laugh at him now, but he saved it then. God, we're just smart asses today. We're just, because everything is too stupid to talk about.
Well, we're hitting the
It's
mark.
too stupid.
Despite our smart assery, we're hitting the mark on this one. I think that's right. Joe Manchin saved us all, and we're able to get. Now, from what I understand, they had a meeting about the kid and some disturbing behavior, even as quickly as like the morning of the shooting. He was in a meeting with some administrators, and then he went out of the meeting, and then apparently didn't immediately, but shot some people immediately after that. So yeah. I mean, again, you don't want this sort of thing presented as evidence at trial. And hopefully, again, we'll get another great judge like that asshole that was in the Kyle Rittenhouse trial to help protect the defendant.
My first impression from yesterday, the kid made his appearance in court. There's that video of him just sitting there. And he pleaded not guilty. I'm thinking, wait a minute. Why did you plead not guilty? And again, we're not lawyers, but we do know that if you cop a plea, you have a chance to negotiate a better deal than if you go to trial and then you're found guilty, right? You're going to, this kid is going to prison for life. He's being tried as an adult, right? He's
As well he should.
He's in for life. But if you plead guilty, it could be one of those where, you get a life sentence, and in 20 years, we can talk. I think that often happens if the person's, even if they're tried as an adult, but they're still underage. But if you take your chances in a trial, it's over. I mean, I again, it just seems he's gotten some bad legal advice here, especially as you said, in a case where this is the question. Well, maybe there was somebody else who did this.
Exactly. Where's our other suspect?
Right. So again, it's just a horrible story, and that's called bad parenting. That's really, really bad parenting. But
it seems there is a problem with the parenting there, but we'll see how this all plays out. Brad, will you be watching the Alec Baldwin interview as George Stephanopoulos sits down with Alec Baldwin? It's the actor's first appearance since the tragic death on that film set for Rust in New Mexico.
No.
You just don't care.
No, can I tell you something?
Please.
This is I maybe it's just me.
Okay.
It's not that interesting. It's not the most interesting thing to me in the world. There are hundreds of thousands. We get 100 gun deaths in this country per week, right?
That's correct. That's correct.
We got 35,000 people a year. This was one of them. And it's no more or no less horrible than all of the other ones. I'm going to play that card right now. What about blah, 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 blah? And I know it's because, it's a movie and it's Alec Baldwin. And I mean, I get that. But I'm not interested in, again, I'm 66. I only have so much time left here. I don't know how much, but I got to decide. Do I want to spend an hour listening to Alec Baldwin probably cry, probably be very sincere, probably, I'm sure, be very truthful, I mean, he didn't set out to do this. Somebody either set him up or set up the situation. Somebody did something wrong. But I'm not going to watch it. I'm more than happy to have you watch it for me.
Yeah, that's what I'll do. You watch Fox, I'll watch this. It's a great trade-off. This is what the symbiotic relationship.
Remember, I only get Fox in 30-second clips. I don't spend an hour watching Fox.
It's like breathing underwater. I mean, you can't do it for more. You can't. You're going to need to come up and get air. But the story really has the elements of everything because I mean, he's a celebrity, and then there's a significant portion of America that hates him, and then they want to. I mean, I've heard various people talk about how it's nobody's fault but yours because the gun was in your hand. And now we're getting the details, and he's being backed up on this, that he actually did not pull a trigger, that there was no trigger that was pulled on that set when this woman was killed. So I'm sure that folks like Emily Miller and various other ones are going to be apologizing for his obvious responsibility in murdering this woman, right?
What does that mean? There was somebody behind the grassy knoll that shot?
You got me, Chief. Either the gun was rigged in some way that was mistaken, and somehow the gun went off without him pulling the trigger. But he is being backed up by someone else on that set that says no, he did not pull the trigger on that particular firearm or that weapon.
That's fantastic. So what that does is it puts more of an onus on you to take detailed notes on the hour you're going to spend watching Alec Baldwin, so you can report back to me next week.
But honestly, why is he sitting down with Stephanopoulos? Shouldn't he have held out for Oprah? Isn't Oprah the one that you want when you're making a huge confession like this, when you're doing something like this? I would insist on Oprah if I was him.
Not when it's associated with a crime, and not when you want to have some credibility.
Well, I mean, to an extent, again, the story has so much sex appeal, especially to a bunch of conservatives who hate the fact that this man portrayed their president, the greatest president, so awfully and evilly for 4 years on national television. Speaking of that man, Washington Post in their business section reporting, they talked to some experts and they say that Donald John Trump Sr. and his organization could pocket $100 million in that deal for the money-losing DC hotel, Brad.
Well, that goes back to the original scam, the original reason that so many morons in this country, quote unquote, great businessman, thought that this was the person to run this country, to be president, because this guy is a brilliant businessman. Well, yeah, I guess you're a brilliant business person if you can run scams and rip people off. Yeah, he's like a guy who is the world's worst baseball owner, but he bought the baseball team, and then all those years later, the baseball team was suddenly worth, 10 times what he paid for it. Was he a brilliant businessman? No, he's just an idiot who stumbled into it.
He hung on.
This is it's ridiculous, but the hotel is well located. It's between the White House and the Capitol, so it does have some value to it. I mean, I get all that shit. They'll slap a new name on it. I think it's going to be a Waldorf Astoria or something of that sort, and off they go. But Trump is a criminal. Trump is a thief. Trump is a liar. Trump is a scam artist. Trump is a horrible human being. There's not one thing ever that I found attractive about him. Not a one. And if there are people who thought that this was a wonderful aspect of who he was and what his personality was and how that would somehow transmit to becoming a great president, well, there's not much we can do, is there? There's not much we can do.
No, it's all been proven. It's all been, and as far as the business acumen of this man, it's been debunked a million ways till Sunday.
Yeah.
I mean, there's everything that he's ever sold was sold to people based on nothing, and it's been horrible products. There's been basically fake products.
This could end up being his best deal ever. That's the ironic thing, right? This could be his best deal ever. I put in $200 million, and they're going to get over $300 million back, and was able to use it as a sphere of influence while he was president. He's brilliant. He's brilliant, Britt. Just brilliant.
Yeah, the brilliant move that he took was not moving it He didn't move the hotel 4 blocks. He just kept it right where he couldn't anyway. But that's the brilliant move is fucking around with it, trying to get a lot of money from people that wanted to curry favor with him. And then in the end, they were able to sell it because of its amazing location, as you pointed out. The Biden plan for Omicron, as pointed out by the New York Times, is to keep the economy open as Omicron spreads. Obviously, they're trying to go into this.
How naive this newspaper is, caring for this socialist autocrat who wants to control your life. Because again, I watch You Know What, so you don't have to. And believe me, it has been positioned over and over again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that Joe Biden so badly wants to shut this economy down.
Yeah.
Under the guise of defeating the virus. And everyone knows that won't help defeat the virus. It'll just be more control by the democratic socialists who are in power right now to run your life. They want to keep you in your house. They want your business to go under. They want your kids to be not allowed to go to school. This is what they really want. So believe when Joe Biden says, no, we're not planning any lockdowns, we're not doing this, he's lying. I know that because I watch You Know Who and
right.
You Know What there. But Britt, I swear to God, that's what they're saying.
Well, that's why he has to be. That's why he has to go on the offensive and say, no, we're not shutting down the country. I'm not in favor of shutting down the economy. The economy's doing pretty well right now. We do have supply chain issues.
Not in favor of it, but I had to. I had no choice.
Well, that was always the Trump thing. I had no choice, right? When he has to do the most draconian thing possible.
Yeah,
he had no choice. I had no choice but to fire Comey. I had no choice but to demote Vindeman. I had to do all of these things. I had no choice in it. The president's new strategy. Again, this is where Joe Biden is completely boring. He's not as exciting at pulling the levers and taking us down to DEFCON 1 as Trump was. His new strategy includes insurance reimbursement for at-home COVID tests and better access for tests for those without insurance. Yawn, yawn. The plan also requires stricter testing for U.S.-bound travelers and extends a mask mandate. And, of course, Mr. Biden has addressed the nation on this. So it's just so boring to have a guy who's got a fucking plan in place. Why can't we have the guy that jerks the car all over the road? I want him back.
Well, I mean, this is the problem.
Yes.
That the president has, that any president would have at this time. Because since you have, I'm going to, for the sake of the argument, say both sides dug in so hard in their view of how things should be run in this country. I never see the question posed to those who are criticizing what's going on. Well, what would you do if you were the president tomorrow? How would you do things differently? Would you say, all right, no more masks?
Right.
Okay, get a shot if you want, but if you don't, fuck it. If people don't like, they don't have to go. Don't go out to a restaurant if you're vaccinated, but you're worried that there are people who aren't vaccinated and expressing their freedom. Is that what you do, Republicans? Nobody ever asked them that. Right? They never asked them that. What would you do with schools? Okay, would you just say, all right, they're all open? If your kid gets vaccinated, fine. If your kid is not vaccinated, put them at the front of the class. Put them at the front because they're just expressing the freedom that their parents have drilled into them. They're not being little robots being forced to roll up their little baby sleeves to get. What is your solution? So now to pull back from the snark here, it's hard to do. We're at this margin point where everyone is now got the vaccine, for the most part, who wants a vaccine. Supposedly, the new problem, of course, is convincing, and I think this is a language problem. We often talk about this. You will hear government officials, and these are people in the Biden administration. They do not get a pass on this from me at all. They will, in the same sentence, say, all right, for all you people who are fully vaccinated, you need to get a booster. All right? Those two things can't be in the same sentence, okay? Fully vaccinated must be now defined as 3 shots. or 2 if it's Johnson and Johnson.
I don't know.
But fully vaccinated means fully, not fully plus. Okay?
Well, again, I think part of that is some confusion from the CDC. I think some of that is confusion from the CDC, and the CDC's direction on boosters in general has been objectively dreadful.
The administration following right along, and I think that this is where Biden, where only the president, can do this, where he needs to say, with Fauci standing right there with him, unless Fauci's already been taken off to jail.
I thought we were dropping the snark.
It's hard.
I know, right?
But the president should say, for all adults over the age of 18 right now, you are not fully vaccinated if you haven't gotten the 3rd shot. And I would drop the word booster. Booster is the seat that you buy for a 5-year-old to put in the fucking back of the car to strap them in because they're too small to fit in a regular seat with a seat belt. That's a booster seat. Other than that, the word started getting leaked out, 8 months ago when it was thought that there was going to be the need for a 3rd shot. And apparently the drug companies were kind of onto this real early. They knew this was going to be at minimum a 3-shot regimen. They didn't want to say it. Nobody wanted to say it because it was tough enough to get people to get the 1st shot, let alone show up for the 2nd shot. Thus, we've had this statistic. This one bothers me also. They always give this statistic. X% of the American people have had at least 1 shot. It doesn't fucking matter if you've had at least 1 shot.
It means very little.
And now, even getting 2 shots, considering that the Delta is still king of the hill here, and we have a new candidate just arriving in San Francisco and now Minnesota, clearly all over the country now. It's just a question of being discovered. We have another candidate. You need that 3rd shot. You do need that 3rd shot. Don't call it a booster. Don't call it an extra. Don't call it an addition. Don't call it a suffix. Don't call it any of those things. This is a 3-shot regimen for now. And guess what? In 5-6 months, it's going to be a 4-shot regimen. Stop counting. It's not like iPhones, okay? It's just, you're going to keep needing them. Does anybody say, you get a booster flu shot this year because you got one last year? No, it's a new flu shot every.
And nobody bitches like, I've had to have 36 flu shots. When are they going to figure this out? Nobody says that.
Right. What? Well, how come the one from last year isn't working anymore?
These so-called scientists and doctors, I've had 37 flu shots and you guys still can't get it right. Nobody says that shit because it's stupid. It's like the dumbest shit that people would say. So yeah, I understand what you're saying. I think, and I don't necessarily blame the drug companies for not, as you say, rolling it out there because the idiots will run down the field with it. They can't tell us how many shots we're going to have to get. I can't tell you.
Part of this is, and I have to go after my left-leaning anti-big pharma.
Yeah.
They're the worst people in the world, folks, that if they would have said early on it's going to be 3, well, that would just be drug company greed. How do they know?
Exactly.
They just want to sell more vaccine to the government, right?
Right.
And, of course, since everyone is lying all the time, except for Donald Trump, the only person who ever tells the truth in this country. And then the lefties think that every company, every minute of every day is lying about everything also. It's tough to get anything done. But putting that aside now, it's where are we at this moment? And we're at the beginning of discovering a new variant. And there might be another one in the works a few months from now. So you have to be prepared for that. And what's the best way to be prepared for all of these things? It's to not only get vaccinated fully with 3 shots, it's to be surrounded by other people who are 3-shot vaccinated, or 2 if it's Johnson and Johnson. And everything after that is gravy. Wearing masks responsibly.
Yeah, it's washing your hands.
It's still going to be important. Washing your hands. It's still important. It still is. But it's so tiring to have to say, that the vaccine is the key, but it is. We didn't beat other diseases in this country or make people immune because of hand washing or masks. Okay, it was because of vaccines.
Correct.
Okay,
That's correct.
And, it's really discouraging to think that there is a section of the country, often led by members of the medical profession, who may even be members of the legislature in the United States of America, the U.S. Senate, or the House of Representatives, who are doctors, who go along with this poppycock about freedom, the freedom to die. Is that, by the way, is that one in the Constitution? Did I miss that one? The freedom to die and to affect other people. Did I miss that? Yeah, I missed that one. So
that's all we got for today, guys, and that's going to do it for our week.
That's it.
Get out there and do some Christmas shopping, or go to shop.bradandbritt.com through Amazon. That's what I'm doing.
There you go. That's a good idea.
I got the little Steven Vanzant autobiography for somebody on my list. He's got a new biography out. That's very. I mean, I was listening to it.
I've heard him talk, and he's really a pretty fascinating character.
Oh, he's lived a life and a half, pal. I mean, he's an interesting guy.
Yeah. I mean, he walked and he talked and he did it, and good for him. I say, just great for him.
He didn't play Sun City either.
Yeah, did not play Sun City before.
He ain't gonna play Sun City.
All right.
See you guys.